I always wanted to make an entrance. So here I am making my entrance. How are you, everybody? I hope you're doing well on this snowy Sunday in New York. Yeah, it's we got the snow that they promised. Usually they don't deliver like they say, the weathermen. This time they did. I still don't think we're going to get 10 inches here. Talking to my friend upstate, he has about 12 or 14, and that was 2 hours ago. I don't know if it's changed. But how you doing, everybody? Hope you're all okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about something that's interesting. The great studio musicians, what is the difference? Well, first off, to be a studio musician, you have to be able to read music, because if I write a piece, you have to be able to play it. So you really can't play by ear. Hey, Mitch. Also, there was just a different interpretation, I think, from studio musicians. And I think that's because they are more literate in the language. It's much like knowing the English language. Can't stand these glasses here. Knowing the English language and then knowing proper punctuation and all of that. Someone can speak very eloquently. You could know the basic rules and when to use whom and all that, but then ask them to write it out properly. The commas in the wrong place, the periods in the wrong place, the quotation marks, and that's the difference between a studio musician, in my understanding, in my feeling. Now, there have been many musicians, one modern day, and I'll come back to him, Steve Lukather, part of that California crowd, David Paich, and they ended up forming Toto. Great studio musicians, and in fact, Toto played on the Michael Jackson Thriller album, and then had their big hit with Africa, I think a year later. So they got a lot of notoriety because of that. Michael McDonald was a studio musician. But being a session player, when I went to some classes at Juilliard for drums, I had worked with Steve Gadd, who's a great studio musician, went on tour with Paul Simon, has done a lot of work. 90% of the time, you have no idea what you're being called for. There are key differences between being in a band, I think, because I was in a band as well, and coming in to record a session as a session musician, painting a detailed picture of what the life of a session player is kind of hard, because they are all very eclectic. Now, given the nature of this profession, session players rarely draw the attention of an average fan. Maybe you'll know Steve Gadd's name because of his work with Paul Simon as the drummer. The great Ray Cooper, who has played with the Stones as percussionist, and Elton John, Nicky Hopkins, very big in the 70s, worked for the Stones on the Imagine album, played the second piece, actually the lead piano on Imagine. And instead of doing hard work away from the spotlight and letting the artist reap most of the acclaim, they just sit there and don't care about the acclaim. Or if they do, they're pretty good at hiding it. They're considered mercenaries of music, hired guns, right? That's not to say that it's worthless and it doesn't come with great responsibility. Yeah, quite the contrary. You better know what you're doing. Obviously, you are trained or you're not going to be there. And the thing is, with Um, being a session musician, it's like a great doctor or a great once you get a reputation, everybody wants you. Now, uh, there are details that go far beyond. You have to be able to stay silent as well because you probably see a lot in the studio, and if you open your mouth, you're also not going to be able to work anymore because they can't trust you. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions I think uh, is the word playing, right? It automatically implies that the profession consists of effortless fun, and it's really the exact opposite. My pal Damien is watching. Hey, Dame. It's the exact opposite. Now, the sad part of doing music is calling it playing because you have your own interpretation, but sometimes you're stifled because the person who's hiring you wants you to play a specific piece from Kappa to the Coda or whatever they've written for in the bar, if you're a drummer, whatever. And unfortunately, it does stifle you. So there are so many different ways to look at a session musician. It's not a bunch of guys having fun. Uh, There can be historic sessions, and you never hear about the guys that may have come up with an idea that saved the session. Jeff Porcaro is one of them, the drummer from Toto, who came up with that shuffle. Now, the hard part now in the business, which has changed, if you come in to do session work, you can knock something off fairly quick. You're pushing hard. It might last an hour when you do your bit, right? But you're charging them for a 3-hour session, much like SAG. I'm in SAG. If I work 1 minute or 2 minutes and 2 hours and 59 minutes, I have to get paid for 3 hours. It's a minimum 3 hours. So you try to knock it off quick. Um, but that'll take probably 40 or 50 years of session work to be able to get it down to where you could just lay it, track it, and they like it. Session work also isn't always fair. The merits can be judged unfairly. You do a project for an artist, right? And the artist might say, I'm on a tight budget. I got 9 tracks, got no charts for anything. You have to chart it for me, meaning, transpose it, put it down. And I only have 4 hours because I can't afford, 500 an hour. Can you do it? So you come in and you write your charts and you do your work. You're not thrilled with that. You're getting rushed. And you get all the 9 tracks done. You may have 3 tracks that they come in with left. And they may cut those tracks somewhere else and you may not be involved. So they may get someone who doesn't read anything or is able to really play as much as you, and you'll get cited for being on that album, and they'll hear if it happens to be the hit song that you weren't on and the bass playing was critiqued as terrible, guess who's getting blamed? Um, you can get paid for 3 days work and work 4 hours. And it sometimes isn't fair. So you start rethinking it. And that's why people start bands. Now, session players, I always thought session players were like plumbers. Uh, they're perceived as people who just come in, get the job done, go away without much pomp and circumstance, right? Most of the time, like I said, you have no idea what you're going to do. And while you're laying the tracks down, they may hear something and want to do something different. So you could walk in the door and it's a reggae song. It could be a polka. It could be a shred metal. You're shredding anime, Japanese stuff. And whatever it is, it's intense, but you don't know. You're just called to come down to the session. So you may not be at your best for one of those. And generally speaking, after many years, you have a bag of tricks like a plumber. Oh, I'll jerry rig this. I got tape that I can hold this off. I can do this, I can do that. And that's what session musicians are known for, uh, trickery. Now, what's the difference between playing in a band, which I played and I toured? If you're in a band and you get in the studio and it's not working out, let's go to the diner. Let's go get pizza. See a movie. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll gig it. Maybe it'll work. When you go in as a session player, you don't have that option. It's expensive. Um, it may be the artist's only shot. You have to come up with the goods that day. You can't go to the movie and think about it. And there's a stress level to that, having to perform. And people don't understand that. You have to be working at the top of your game 24/7. And that's not always easy. Now, some of the great session musicians, Thomas Lang, he's a drummer. He performed with John Wetton and Peter Gabriel, Robbie Williams, Tina Turner, older guy now. He's Austrian. And he's not as famous as Neil Peart or Keith Moon or anyone like that, but he's regularly listed in music mags as a technically skilled drummer. Give you, for instance, Jim Keltner was in the Beatle clique. Klaus Vormann, they all were on each other's albums. Jim Keltner is probably a much better technically driven drummer than Ringo Starr. Keltner's excellent technically. Doesn't quite have the feel Ringo has. And the iconic no thrill fills. But technically he's terrific. Alan White from Yes was terrific. But he began drumming, I think, at 4 or 5 years of age, gained prominence in the 90s after a bunch of session gigs with Peter Gabriel, also worked with Kelly Clarkson. And he had a career as well as being a studio guy. He was a solo act, avant-garde metal and all that crap. High-speed drumming and mesmerizing stick spinning. That's what he's known for. Stick spinning you got to watch because you could go out of, there are guys at 4 in the bar like some Keith Moon could do 8 in the bar when you think it's 4 in the bar. He had the Thomas Lang drumming boot camp, an intensive 8-day course, specializes in serious playing, advanced drumming techniques, and he's terrific. The Hollywood Studio Symphony, full symphony orchestra, and they've played with Hans Zimmer and Jerry Goldsmith, Alan Silvestri, Elmer Bernstein. They're little known outside of LA, the Hollywood SS, but they're a rotating group of studio musicians responsible for playing soundtrack stuff, countless big screen films. Or, you've definitely heard them. Most of the members are classically trained. They don't perform outside of the studio, so they don't need a stable lineup. It's a revolving door of contracted session players from around the LA area. Probably 30 guys. It's much like a wedding band. Someone will have 8 bands in their stable, right? Same thing. Sometimes when I was playing a wedding, we needed a girl for the lead singer because the wedding song had a girl, so we'd have to hire her, give her 300 or 200, and maybe we let her sing a couple of songs so she didn't come all the way down there for nothing. Much like that, you borrow a bassist, you borrow a drummer, this and that. How Ringo Starr became a Beatle. The Muscle Shoals Rhythm Section, them you've heard. They've been with the Rolling Stones, Elton John, Percy Sledge, Wilson Pickett, Franklin Stewart, Skinner, many more. They played with Melinda Doolittle. Now, they are one of the most famous session bands of all time. Much like Elephant's Memory in the early 70s, a real gritty New York band that played for John Lennon, a concert at the Garden and all that. And they actually did a song in the Midnight Cowboy, one of the avant-garde LSD songs, which is pretty good. So they're Alabama-based musicians. They backed up some of the storied acts of the 60s and 70s. They were also known as the Swampers, and they were responsible for creating the famed Muscle Shoals sound. Numerous songs. The staple singers, "I'll Take You There," "I'll Take You There," um, "Wild Horses." During a time when racial tensions were constantly at a boil in the Deep South, the Muscle Shoals rhythm section, their members were all white, was responsible for recording with a number of black Motown acts, and they got along. So there you go. So people can get along if they want to, and music brings everybody together. We know that. You can go to electronic club in Germany, and everyone's dancing and singing and smiling at each other. And no one would understand what you're saying. You don't have to. The beat is the voice. They eventually collaborated with Elton John, Alice in Chains, Paul Simon, Bob Dylan, and their original members, David Hood, Jimmy Johnson, Barry Beckett, Roger Hawkins, they expanded later on with about 5 or 6 different people. And during the 70s, they became so revered that even they were even mentioned in the Leonard Skinner song, "Sweet Home Alabama." "Pick Me Up When I'm Feeling Blue." James Burton, he performed with Elvis, a little older now, Ricky Nelson, Cash, Graham Parsons. And now he's in his 70s, I believe, and a journeyman. He was like a big session musician in the 60s during Tom Jones. Big Jim Sullivan was a really good session musician that he was in his band, the TV show, This Is Tom Jones and all that. He used to sit down and play. He was really good. Burton was a semi-pro musician, but early teens, 18, he had done a guitar solo on a 1957 Dale Dawkins Sid Susie Q. Fender Telecaster, that's his trademark guitar. And he's played for Emmylou Harris, Johnny Cash. And he was one of the members of the Wrecking Crew. They were a loosely organized group in LA, and they toured with Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Costello, actually, Bob Denver. They're good. They're good. And they've also been linked to the Winos with Keith Richards. Billy Preston, we all know him from the Beatle days, and he was also playing for Ray Charles in the early 60s when the Beatles met him. Ray Charles wasn't doing all the intricate stuff, and Preston was a 17-year-old kid at that time. He played with the Beatles, the Stones, Little Richard. Little Richard he played, but not Ray Charles when they were touring England. And amazing. And he's very familiar. But you look at him as a solo artist, but real session guy, lengthy career, the late Billy Preston. You know, nothing from nothing. Even won a Grammy in 1972 for the instrumental Out of Space. Great song. I remember getting that song for my birthday. His output was impressive, but he's still known for collaborating in the 60s and 70s with the Beatles. He was a music prodigy. At age 3, he was playing piano. By 16, he was featured with Little Richard. Yeah, Ray Charles, I think he did play with that. You'd have to check me on that. I think he did play with Ray Charles and Sam Cooke. Charles's health was failing a bit in the early 60s, so all the intricate stuff Billy would play. But he was terrific. He also played with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He died about 20 years ago, actually, now. And he was featured on Johnny Cash and Steve Winwood. Great. Carol Kaye, woman bass guitarist and electric. And she was with the Beach Boys and the Doors and Ritchie Valens. She was terrific. One of the greatest bass players in history. She's on dozens of Billboard Top 100s, but still unknown by many music fans. She was a daughter of 2 musicians. She grew up in LA. She was a bass instructor in her early teens. She was really good. She became a studio musician in the 1960s. When a scheduled musician didn't show up, they called her in, and she became one of the industry's go-to bass session women. 10,000 or so studio recordings she's played on. She played in Pet Sounds, 1966, the Beach Boys. She worked with the Wrecking Crew as well. television soundtracks. You've lost that loving feeling. She was in La Bamba, Good Vibrations, I'm a Believer. Uh, Brian Wilson loved her. Once called her the best damn bass player in the world. I guess Paul wasn't in the room when he said that. Ray Cooper. Cooper's the crazy guy that's always doing this in the back near the drums. Elton and Paul McCartney and George Harrison knew him very well, and Clapton and Weezer and AC/DC, and among others. He's an English percussionist. He's played drums for some of the biggest names, along with the way he developed a cult following with his instruments. His technical skill is prodigious, and he will do a 15-minute drum solo. Unbelievable. Eric Clapton and Elton John are two of the people he's toured with most, but everyone from Wings, he worked with Wings, to Weezer. He's not content on a regular drum kit. Massive percussion setup, a glockenspiel, tubular bells, congas, tambourine, even a gong. He's crazy. And his on-stage enthusiasm, where he's doing this, crazy. And he can write as well. And he moonlights as an actor. He's appeared in movies with Terry Gilliam and Robert Altman. The Wrecking Crew, what we spoke of, their instruments are guitars, drums, keyboard, sax, trombone, percussion, and they played with the Partridge Family, the Mamas and the Papas, Beach Boys, Simon and Garfunkel, Elvis, Frank Sinatra. Individuals of that group appear elsewhere in different lists, but you have to really look at them as an immense contribution to pop music. They're probably the most well-traveled gang of studio musicians in recording history. If you ever listen to a song in the 60s or 70s, you've probably heard one of them or five of them on it in the background. Back in the day, you really, record companies frowned on you playing on other people's records. That's why Eric Clapton wasn't listed on the White Album. They gave you a hard time with that. They didn't like it. It's much like me being on Jimmy Fallon and mentioning a show on another channel. You got to watch this show from another network. It's frowned upon. Even if you're on the other network and they interview you, you're not supposed to really hawk it. You hawk the show. You don't tell them where to go find it. But this group, Be My Baby, Ronettes, Wall of Sound with Spector, and they didn't play just rock. They played theme tracks, soundtracks, MASH, Bonanza, Mission Impossible. Tommy Tedesco remained studio musicians for most of their lives. Tedesco is very well known. He played with Glenn Campbell. Glenn Campbell as well was a studio musician, and he was as good, believe me. I think he almost as good as Clapton, probably. Glenn Campbell was a brilliant guitarist. The Funk Brothers, bass, guitar, drums, piano. Usually, they do a little of everything. They perform with the Temptations and Smokey, Marvin Gaye, Jackson 5, Stevie Wonder. Really black-oriented groups. From 59 to 72, they were really a top studio backup band for nearly every act on the Motown label in Detroit. And unlike the Wrecking Crew in L.A., and Booker T and the MGs in Memphis, the Funk Brothers were rarely credited for their work. A few outside of the industry knew them until there was a documentary in 2002, Standing in the Shadows of Motown, when you got to see them in the studio doing work, and everyone then said, "Oh, that's who we hear? They're good musicians." And although the anonymity was prevalent, Earl Van Dyke, great piano player, played on My Girl, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. He played in the early 70s with Stevie Wonder. They had a core of 13 musicians. They used jerry-rigged instruments, very unconventional. They used iron snow chains as percussion. They were dismissed, though, in 1972 with Motown after the label moved to L.A., and something happened. No one really knows what happened. Most of the members worked in obscurity, but as a master session musician, generally you find your way back. People know who you are. One of the best, Hal Blaine, the drummer from Sinatra, Mamas and Papas, Simon and Garfunkel, John Lennon, and even rumored to have done stuff with the Beatles that Ringo would never admit, that he was brought in by George Martin and do sessions, and Ringo would make believe that he didn't realize it wasn't him. Not sure if I believe that, but he's the epitome of what a session musician is. Talented, he's prolific, but anonymous. You probably never heard of him until now. He's not known well, but the diehards in the industry know him, and that's what counts. You're not hiring him, they are. He's never been a mainstream star, but he's been on thousands of songs. And he's played on more number one hits than any living musician, more than Michael Jackson and the Beatles combined. That's true. Another guy who you wouldn't believe as a producer who was great, um, the guy from Nigel, the guy from Chic. He's written songs for Madonna. He's been involved in like 10 to 15 number one hits. Nile Rodgers. Now, according to certain accounts, by the late 70s, there were few music venues that didn't have Blaine's stamp all over them. He was such a presence. And to this day, really was. You just know who he is. So you look at that. Hey, Danae. Nile Rodgers, thanks. Yeah, Rodgers is great. I actually had a conversation with him. I went to in 2014 or 15. I went to see Duran Duran in the city. Hey, Buffalo Bill, and yeah, I liked the Broncos today. I thought that line was a little fishy. And what's going on with that score? 8 minutes left. Yeah, I like the under a lot. That game couldn't go over. But what's the score here? 10-7. But there are studio musicians that do things differently. Now I'll try to show you on the drums, if you can hear this. I'm allowed to do this as long as I don't elevate this on. If I was going to play Congo, right? And, or I could do, delay and not resolve until, like a, or like, like a, you put the accent. You hear the accent on the right. And that's what you do. You have your own signature sound. And with that sound, generally, you can go far if the sound is good. Like Rosanna, the shuffle. Porcaro was great with the shuffle. The late Porcaro of Toto, great session musician. Nowadays, Steve Lukather, you become a hired gun. And in fact, many people don't know this. The band Toto, they were very good friends with Michael McDonald. When they formed their band, David Paich and Lukather pretty much took the helm. Lukather was like 17. And they were 15 minutes away from having Michael McDonald as the lead singer. But I think it was Lukather who didn't know that one of the band members already had spoke to Bobby Kimball. But Michael McDonald, who was good friends with them. And can you imagine how Toto's sound would have been augmented by his voice? Although Lukather did a lot of stuff. And then Joey Williams became a lead singer when Kimball left and Kimball came back. Joey Williams' father, if you look at Star Wars, did all the soundtracks in the 70s, Williams. Joey Williams does the same now. If you listen to any of the 80s, great, The Equalizer, any of those background, that's Stuart Copeland of the Police. Stuart Copeland did a lot of the background music for a lot of the 80s TV series. Very talented, Stuart Copeland. Very, very talented to be a studio musician. Now, why do I feel clinically you can be a little aesthetic? Because I think if you, I'll give you the perfect analogy. George Harrison stated that Paul McCartney ruined him as a guitar player because Paul had in his head what he wanted George to play, and he would tell George what to play. You lose your creativity after a while. So if I'm a session guy and I come in and you're charting it for me, and then we track it, I'm really not adding anything but my feel. And I could get, after a while, your creativity lays dormant. Where in a band, you could express yourself more. But Edwin, how are you? Blessings, my friend. But you know, the problem with the Beatles, listen, I was in a band. I know what the deal is. The Beatles started feeling like sidemen for Paul. Paul would come in his head, he already had the bass, the drums, everything laid out. He would tell George pretty much what to play. You're not really supposed to do that. You need to be able to put your own signature on the song. And George was stifled. Paul even started doing it with Ringo. Ringo got so disgusted he walked out because Paul can drum. And I don't read music. I play by ear. But, well, I can read a little, but I can read a little, but not enough to hurt me. To me, if you know all the rules where there is certain, if you're playing triplets, certain wouldn't be correct playing in a jazz scale. If I don't know that, I could do whatever I want. Session musicians, oh, you can't do that. Why not? It's like unconventionally batting your pitcher before the DH 7th instead of 9th. And it wasn't that he was a great hitter. You just did it. You're not supposed to do it. So there were rules. With drumming too, paradiddles, you play paradiddles, you play, it gets it's right, left, whatever it is. Married with Paranormal. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Been a while. If anybody has seen Joe Cotrain, I texted him. I'm a little worried. I haven't seen Joe on here for a while. I texted him. I'm hoping he's okay. So if anybody's seen him, it's a very expensive thumbnail, not equipment. It's not mine. Mine isn't all that impressive. But yeah, I hope that Joe Cotrain is okay. I'm a little concerned. I really am. I'm just texting him now. Just some humor. Yeah. Oh, okay. I wish I had that. I have 8 guitars. I have a Yamaha. I have a Taylor. I have a Strat reissue. I have an Ibanez. The original Ibanez was what I went on stage with in the 80s. It has a slight crack, so kind of supposed to hang it up. I wouldn't go live and do gigging with it. But my Taylor is nice. I have 2 guitars that are about $1,800 a piece. The acoustics, the Taylor, the Yamaha is about $1,000. And then I have other ones that are about 400. My Strat's about 4,000, 3,000 maybe to reissue. I have a Gibson SG, which is about 2,500. SG 1985, ivory, gold pickups. It's nice, black. Um, and I never play them. Never played them. I play my Yamaha. Is that the Yamaha? That's the Taylor. I play the Taylor all the time. It's standing here on a stand, and anytime I want to pick it up, I just do it. But yeah, studio musicians are where it's at, and many times you'll hear something in a song. Oh, that's wild. It was the studio musician. Now, like I said, their creativity is altered a bit, so you don't know if it's actually them doing it. I would imagine some artists are okay. I think Paul McCartney probably is rough to deal with in the studio because he wants something his own way. And you know what? He can say, I might not read music technically like you, but I was a Beatle, so shut up. I know what sounds good. What are you going to say to him? Right? It's like you being a smart guy with a lot of money and me being a guy with not as much money, but every business I've ever built succeeded. Chances are we'd be a good marriage. But I have the experience in what it takes to build a business. McCartney has experience of what it means to be a hit maker. Chat GPT told you? Oh, really, Buff? Telecaster. I have a Strat reissue. I have a Telecaster, 1988. My Gibson SG in 1985. I bought it. It's black, gold pickups, ivory, beautiful. Back then, I paid $650 for it in '85. I think it's worth about $2,200 now. Heavy though. On stage, it was heavy to play the Gibson SG. That's why you can't play it. It kills your neck after a while. But it's solid. You get a nice rhythm sound out of it. I like the Ibanez. That was my first acoustic guitar, 1982, 81. Ibanez. I think I paid about $240 for it. Danae kind about what? No, about reaching out to Joe? No, Joe's a friend of mine. I'm just worried because I know Joe had a heart issue at one time. And it's not like him to not pop in and just say hi. I texted him a few days ago too. I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay. But I'll continue to try to reach out to him. He's a good man, Joe. So great father. So, when I look at music, I look at it, I listen to music differently than the average person because I listen to what's going on in the background. The drum fills, like God is a concept, and you hear like the fills. I don't believe in. I don't believe in. I don't believe in. All different fills, nothing the same. And when he was playing on TV, the second fill, he looked over at Alan White and smiled. That's exactly what Lennon wanted. Because who is odd with the fills? Ringo. John's coming from Ringo. Oh, really, Danae? Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think it's amazing. I could find out for you, Bill, if you send me a picture of it. My friend buys and sells them and refurbishes them. If you ever need it restrung or anything, I could send you somewhere. So, but music to me is much more than a soundtrack to your life, although I've used that, I've originated it. Music brings you to a place where nothing else can. Think about it. Do you need music at a funeral? You're staring at the casket. That's not sad enough. You need Ave Maria playing in the background. Sweet 16, bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah, whatever, wedding. You music is there. Music is like oxygen to the creative. From the time I get up in the morning, I put music on. Falling asleep, music. In fact, interestingly enough, I'm gonna have to today because it's actually concerning me. It was concerning me, and then when I came on here, it started really concerning me. So, yeah, it does 'cause he's a good guy. So, you try to feed into this creativity you have, and think about it. High school, what do you and your girlfriend have? You may have your favorite pizzeria, your favorite song. That's our song. Why is it your song? Because it makes sense, right? People will forget everyone's name from their past, but if they're married 60 years, they'll remember their wedding song. Why? You don't remember a girl that you might have been dating 60 years ago that you slept with and with her a year. You might not remember that, but you remember a wedding song. You remember a wedding song if you were married 3 weeks. You remember the wedding song. Why? Because music hits a part of our brain that nothing else does. Dominic Quinez from The Sopranos, I did a show for him. He deals with music for healing with elders. And about 10 years ago, I did a show. I was a DJ, karaoke host when I first retired, and I did a show for Astoria Bank. Gary, the head of HR who hired me, his uncle was Dominic Quinez, and he put me together with him. And Dominic Quinez, wonderful guy. And Alzheimer's patients, dementia, music. It's been known they put music someone that may be in a coma. Something happens with music. For me, if I had to try to give you something original that I haven't read or anything, that's the problem when you're older. You might think it's original, but you might have read it and you just are too old to have remembered reading it. Music, you could see. I have a BMW. Oh, it's my son's, but guess who bought it from? And of course, I drive the Honda Accord, the Nissan Altima. Honda was my last car. And in fact, they're calling. I have to bring it back. They're calling me early. People, they must want used cars because I'm like 6 months short of the lease, and they're calling me to bring it back. Mixed tapes. Oh, I was the king of that. So what happened was, I forgot what I was going to say. That's old. No, I'll originate this. If my BMW, if you saw it, no, Buffalo, no, it's really his. When he was 21, I promised him if he did really well in school, a BMW. He turned 21 and I got it from him. He has since gotten his own. He leased it. Well, no, he leased the first one. I leased the first one for him. And the best thing I ever did, I took the package out for $102 a month extra. That covered the interior, tires, and rims. Where if you hit a pothole, the rim is $800, $900. The tires on that car were $300. If you stain the seat, which sure enough, his arm had suntan lotion on it, discolored the seat, the door, the leather, and best thing I ever bought. I have the tire thing on my Nissan Altima. I've had 2 bubbles already replaced the tires, and I have another bubble that I'm bringing it in. My gear shift, where it says drive, revert, the lights went out. And I went on the internet and it said it's fused 26 or 30. Mechanic tried it. It's not working. So I have to bring it in. By the way, I got another bubble in my, they must hate me. So getting back to the story, if you saw the Bloom BMW, I could have it minted out and you'll say, wow, it's really nice. If I have that BMW with these 14 karat gold looking accented wheels, you'd say, wow, that's amazing. You'll remember that one. And when you see other BMWs in the street, you'll always say, I saw a BMW that it looked different, because you'll remember. Well, that's what music, I believe, does to you. It accentuates the good. It's an adjutant. There are medications they give you, and then they give you something else with it that brings out the effects of that medication, enhances it. And that's what music does. We attach music. Yeah, then our girlfriend breaks up with us. We're laying in bed listening to a song when we're 16. I wonder if she's listening to it. Yeah, with her new boyfriend. But you're praying that she's sitting home crying over it because we want to feel sad. But as we get older, we change. How many songs that you loved 30 years ago that now it's not that you hate them, you just wouldn't want to listen to them? It happens. It happens. For whatever reason, it happens. And I guess I know why, because we change. We just change. Our makeup changes, our life experiences change the mode of how we think. Why do you think most 55-year-olds, you think Paul McCartney just forgot how to write a song? He'll never have a hit again. Why? What changed? That only one, Danae, 30. That it's the perfect storm when you're 25 and you know how 25-year-olds think around you because you are one. How can you relate to something when you're 50, like a 25-year-old? No, I know. I can't afford this guy. Season Ranger tickets, Nick tickets, this, that. You go into his room, it looks like Space 1999, the room. Computer setup, this, that. He's a good kid, though. No, he edits movies. Actually, I'll show you one of the movies he produced. He was a director in this one. This is a movie that he directed a couple of years ago. Oh, his stuff has been in the film festival. He's very talented. Takes up to me. Not. This is his
Okay. No blood. No semen. Amanda.
It's just that this place is like more disgusting than the place I spent prom night at the Jersey Shore, and that place literally was covered in semen. I know, I saw them do it.
I know that you didn't dream of getting married in a courthouse.
I didn't even get any pictures.
Well, do you want to try and find that vineyard? We'll get some photos. Who's this guy?
Is that the owner?
That's Charles Marvin.
Who's Charles Marvin?
Gooch Baker from A Baker's Dozen is like the biggest sitcom of the late 90s.
I just want to say I'm such a huge fan of yours.
I appreciate you recognizing me. But Hollywood is a cesspool. They promote moral corruption throughout all of society.
Yeah.
But thank you.
How's it taste?
Like dick.
Will you be joining us at the Love Tangle?
The what?
The love tangle is our chance to consummate your marriage with you and your bride. Have you ever seen a squid fight a whale, Josh? It's like that, but instead of a squid, it's a bunch of horny people and we're all fucking.
Hey, you want to talk about how the love of your life, Cooch Baker, started to call? No?
This is about what? Like fucking girls?
Is it about fucking?
Do you know how hard it is to maintain an erection when the other person worships you like a god? It's a weird power dynamic.
That's kind of progressive. I actually really respect that.
You gotta help me get out.
You want us to help you escape your own cult.
This could not get any fucking weird.
Yeah, it's actually Pats. Wow. Unreal. So I hit the under. I hit the over 11.5 rushing attempts by Stevenson, 25. I hit May under 30 completion, under 30 attempts. And I lost Stidham over 200 yards throwing. I go 3 and 2 or 4 and 2 today. Anyway, what are you gonna do? Yeah, the under was a lock. That was my 5-star play, 4-star play to the clients. So we need music. We need music because without music, we can't vent properly. You see, you need to be able to vent without venting. You need to be able to vent, process in your mind without verbally venting. How you can do that is listening to a song. That is the other party. But they don't say a wrong word because it's perfect for what you need. They're never going to say the wrong thing because I don't care how many times you listen to an album, you could hear yesterday. It's never going to change that song if you put it on the... never going to change. Getting all these... Thanks for considering AT&T. I never did. So I love that. I got one of these things today. And you're late in a ticket, and I don't know, they're going to sentence you to death if you don't pay or something like that. But I'm terrible. I text her, listen, I'm just laying here with your mother right now. Just, she's a little older now. Could you give me a few minutes? And I'm terrible. Terrible. I shouldn't do that. So I'll give you the 3 most perfect, not technically, but they sound to the ear. See, also, something could sound really great to the ear that's not technically proficient, but it's really good. I'll give you a perfect pop song. Depeche Mode, Enjoy the Silence. That's a good one. The song by Tears for Fears. Oh, Enjoy the Silence is brilliant. That one, what was the, my God, Sowing the Seeds of Love, Tears for Fears. They were paying homage to the Beatles there. And Jackie Blue. Constructed very nicely. You know, verse, middle, break, all that. One of the artists that is tremendous, Stevie Wonder. Wonder's great. Wonder's amazing. Really is. Who sang Running Up That Hill? I'm not sure. Is that a real song? Or you're breaking my chops? Oh, Kate Bush? Kate Bush. That's what I used to tell my friend. He said, "Oh, my name's Tito." I said, "Listen, anybody that has tit in their name, you're all right with me." So I hope the women didn't get mad. That's just a joke, ladies. So anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Are great studio musicians too clinical? Yeah, they kind of are, but we need that. Don't you need people in your life? What the hell is this here? We need people that are clinical. Clinicians. Someone to reel you in. You need someone that when you're going off the ledge, isn't there to push you. You know what I mean? The producer of Garbage. Is that the producer of Garbage? I like. I'll give you a freebie. I like the Rams. I think the Rams are too tough. Yeah, very talented, but yeah, terrific. He's like Ronson. Just everything he touches has a bit of a hook to it. Everyone, stay safe. I'm sure you're inside if you're in the snow area, the snow belt, which is the whole Northeast. Be well, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll come on tomorrow and I'll talk about some nonsense. God bless you all. And for Buffalo Billy, I'm going to one of the music shorts tonight will be dedicated to him. See you guys soon.